we take the high ground? Can we reset our perspective? Can we see what the rest of the world sees of Ghana? So how do we take the global perspective? Now, one of the most remarkable things about Ghana is the quality of the talent we have and the people. Kofi Amamu-Godfred is the global head of marketing for Facebook, for example, and Bozoma St. John, as we all know and have heard, is Chief Brand Officer at Uber. And recently we had three amazing people at one of the universities in Ghana launch a satellite to space. And the list is endless. And if you keep digging and keep looking, and you take one step back, what you find is a country with unbelievable raw potential. So my first degree, I went to school in Kumasi in tech, and there were people in my class whose calculus was better than their English. Just raw, amazing talent. And yet, we take this wonderful group of people we have, all this skill, all this ability, and then completely get blindsided by the hustle of daily life. The challenge is that it's very difficult to grow anything of scale without a perspective which is truly global. So I'm a big advocate for starting small. We started our business at the back of Taifa, but we started our business with a vision to be a global company. And that vision served as the driver for the excellence, served the driver for our core values, which were excellence, integrity, and reliability. Those values, without any marketing, allowed us pick up, over a period of time, the top 5 technology companies in the world as our clients. So Gmail's service infrastructure run on us, and as well as the service infrastructure for many other businesses in the world. Many of the businesses you've heard of, from the BBC, for ESPN, for the Voice of America, for Walmart, for Facebook, right out of Ghana. I think the core of that difference was perspective. And the conversation we want to have is, how do we reset the Ghanaian perspective? How do we change the agenda for what becomes our primary focus, what we're thinking about, and what's driving our interest? So one of the things we find remarkable about technology is, first of all, we change technology, and then technology changes us. Now my kids can't imagine a world without cell phones. But when we look at as early as some 10, 15 years ago, none of this existed. And on the back of that, we've seen major changes in commerce, in how we buy, how we communicate, how we relate, things like WhatsApp. Now, as you stand back and you take a look from a global perspective, what you're seeing is that another set of changes are happening. And this time, these changes are faster and will have much more dramatic effect. So last year, about this time, June last year, I was privileged to be at a conversation hosted by the White House on the impact of the future of artificial intelligence on jobs worldwide, and the kind of impact and challenges and disruptive nature that kind of technology would have on us. And as a people and as a nation, I don't think we're yet having those conversations. So we're seeing a confluence of some major technology changes, and you have that, you've sort of seen the impact of commerce. So in Africa, we bypassed one step of the commerce revolution. We went mobile before commerce. The rest of the world sort of went from commerce to mobile. And then there's sort of the big data and analytics revolution, which is driving much of advertising. So you go and your wife happens to use your phone to shop for a handbag, and that handbag would chase you everywhere across the internet. So for the next 5 days, you're going to be seeing handbags everywhere you go. And this is big data, this is analytics coming together in a manner which is transforming and disrupting industries. And then there's a major one, which is slowly but very carefully sweeping into our current reality. And it's a convergence of three major technologies. It's the Internet of Things, it's artificial intelligence, and it's blockchain. And combined together, they are creating a new set of disruptive and innovative capabilities. So as with all technology, major technology trends, first, we change technology. So something fundamental happens. And then the technologies find scale, and then they come back and they change us. So I'm going to leave you with a few thoughts. And the thoughts are really about, to what extent are we resetting our visions and having conversations about exporting or looking at the value of Ghanaian talent on the global stage? We know, we listened to Dr. Thomas a few minutes ago, and we know of many, Professor Alote of blessed memory, many other Ghanaian luminaries. And so we know we have the capacity, we know we have the capability. I think our challenge is, the greater danger for us is not that our expectations are too high and we miss them. It's that they're too low and we attain them. And so the conversation is, as the technology changes, how are we changing? One of the more interesting things is about losing. And the surest way to lose is to defend. So in 2004, Rancard, I was leading a team at Rancard, which had just built this amazing system for General Electric. It was a 3D predictive system, and it helped General Electric predict problems before they happened. It was, we mined data for GE's 700 businesses worldwide, put in a huge platform, and predicted trends so that if there was a failure of sugarcane in Brazil, GE Health could figure out what was wrong with the business. And it was amazing, and it was revolutionary, and we had the technology. But interestingly, at the time, we were so bogged down by the hustle that we spent a lot of our time trying to win business in Ghana. Now, what eventually happened was the, in quote, technology majors at the time, Microsoft, Oracle, etc., just became caught up with the technology, grew big, dominant, and came and ate our lunch. Yeah. Which is the fate of every Ghanaian company who chooses to defend on the market. Because the kids in Silicon Valley are not dreaming about Silicon Valley. They're dreaming about Africa. Okay, so they are building their apps. They want to change the world. They have a vision which is global. And we are, in Ghana, everybody wants to be the guy who is selling ECG's credits. Okay, you want to build an app which sells ECG credits, and that almost seems to be the extent of the vision. So instead of having a bigger pie, where we're having conversations about how do we get Ghanaian companies into India, into China, into Russia. Rancard serves over 72 telcos, some of them in Ukraine. Okay, how do we get Ghanaian companies into the Far East? We're not having enough of those conversations. We're squabbling over little breadcrumbs in a little market. And the nature of losing is to do exactly that. So my challenge to our startups, our entrepreneurs, our Ghanaian companies is change the focus. Every new technology revolution brings about a new range of opportunities. And we have gone from something like 1 billion devices within the first internet wave to a potential of 50 billion devices by 2020. Now, we're used to reeling off things like mobile phone penetration. But 10 years ago, there were no mobile phones in a sense. And imagine what the next revolution is going to look like. Sadly, today, there are no Ghanaian-owned telcos. So even though the telco industry is billions of dollars, it doesn't translate into value to us, because to defend is to lose. I know Jose Mourinho doesn't agree with me, and will park the bus wherever he can. But to defend is to lose. So how do Ghanaian companies get on the offensive? How do we change the nature of the conversation? How do we build companies which are global, which are relevant, which can succeed on a global stage? And I think that that conversation needs to move to where the fourth wave of the next industrial revolution, which is happening, is AI and robotics. And get involved and get engaged in the Internet of Things, AI, robotics. So 2 years ago, I took a break from my role as CTO of Rancard and decided to focus on a new company which was focused on the fourth wave. So artificial intelligence, robotics, Internet of Things. A few weeks ago, we announced one of the world's first cellular-enabled smart speakers. So picture this. If you've heard of Siri, or you've heard of the Amazon Echo, or you've heard of the Google Home, what you should be expecting is that computing is going from 10 fingers to 1 finger to no hand. And the computers are disappearing from devices to things around us. Now, what we're not realizing is that that change is sweeping very quickly. And with things like blockchain, it's now possible to have billions of devices on globally immutable registers, a capability which introduces an interesting dimension to scaling AI and robotics. And so you suddenly find an era where your conversations, which have shifted from your phone, have now shifted to devices you don't control. So the human-computer interface is probably one of the most important points of every revolution. And you can think of just 10 years ago, ask yourself where Nokia are, where BlackBerry is, where Xerox is, where Siemens is, where Alcatel is. These are all mostly Chinese companies now who are buying back for the brands. And that's what happens at every revolution. You have a dominant player who's disrupted, and somebody else doesn't respond to it. So your operating systems are changing. They're going to voice. And how you're going to be looking for jobs, how you're going to be buying groceries, how you're going to be getting your Uber, fundamentally will change as your computing power shifts from your telephone to another device, much in the same way that your laptop has shifted from, your computing power shifted from a mainframe to a desktop to your phone. And every point you have miniaturization going through. So I brought you one of my toys. You can't. Elsie, what's the time in San Francisco?
The time in San Francisco, California, USA is 7:01 a.m.
Elsie, what's the time in Ghana?
The time in Ghana is 3:01 p.m.
Elsie, play me some music.
Would you believe it if I said at times I feel lost?
Conversations about your future. Can we reset our expectations of what's possible out of here? 3D printers are creating a new base for manufacturing. I salute the work of the Hive in Kumasi. I salute the work of numerous innovators in Ghana. And I'm challenging us this afternoon to reset our perspective and the conversations we're having. Thank you very much for your time. It's been great being here. Thank you.